The rise of a star. Amy Winehouse's early years were filled with promise. With a voice that seemed to carry the weight of the world, she quickly rose to prominence in the music industry. The raw emotion in her songs, coupled with her unique style, made her stand out. But fame wasn't all it was cracked up to be. A voice of vulnerability. Amy's breakthrough album Frank brought her into the spotlight. The soulful voice and deeply personal lyrics endeared her to fans and critics alike. But behind the success, Amy's insecurities were beginning to show. Fame came with pressures she wasn't prepared for. The man who changed everything. Blake Fielder entered Amy's life, and everything shifted. The two shared a tumultuous and intense relationship that would shape much of her later life. Blake introduced Amy to hard drugs, and the downward spiral began. A public affair. The media quickly caught on to Amy and Blake's volatile relationship. Their constant public arguments, drug use, and unhealthy habits were splashed across tabloids. The pressure from the press added to the stress already building in Amy's life. Back to Black. Amy channeled her pain into her second album, Back to Black. The album was a massive success, both critically and commercially, but the lyrics reflected the darkest parts of Amy's life, especially her unhealthy relationship with Blake. The Dark Descent. Despite her success, Amy's personal life continued to unravel. Her drug and alcohol use escalated, and her health began to deteriorate. Friends and family were concerned, but Amy pushed everyone away, seeking solace in substances. The destructive love. Blake's influence on Amy deepened. Their love was intense, but toxic. The couple's drug binges became more frequent, and Amy's behavior became more erratic. Her once sparkling career was beginning to fade as her personal demons took over. The media frenzy. The paparazzi hounded Amy everywhere she went. Her struggles with addiction became public knowledge, and the media only added fuel to the fire. Amy was constantly under scrutiny, which pushed her further into isolation. The warning signs. Close friends and family noticed Amy's worsening condition. Her bulimia, drug addiction, and alcohol abuse were taking a severe toll on her body. Despite numerous interventions, Amy resisted help, continuing down her self-destructive path. The marriage of despair. In 2007, Amy married Blake in a whirlwind ceremony, further intensifying their chaotic relationship. The marriage, however, was built on a foundation of addiction and mutual destruction. It wasn't long before things began to crumble. Blake's arrest. Blake was arrested for his involvement in a bar fight, leaving Amy alone for the first time in a long while. While Blake served his time, Amy's substance abuse continued, though some saw this as an opportunity for her to start fresh. The intervention. Amy's father, Mitch Winehouse, stepped in, attempting to guide his daughter back to sobriety. Despite his good intentions, his actions were often seen as self-serving. The two shared a complicated relationship, one filled with love, but also resentment. Rehab. The famous song Rehab was born out of Amy's refusal to seek treatment. The song became an anthem, but its lyrics were deeply personal. The irony of the song's success only highlighted the fact that Amy wasn't receiving the help she desperately needed. St. Lucia's Sanctuary. In an effort to escape the pressures of London, Amy traveled to St. Lucia in 2009. There, she found temporary peace, away from the prying eyes of the paparazzi. She spent her days in relative solitude, trying to heal, but the demons were never far away. Mitch's documentary. Mitch Winehouse arrived in St. Lucia with a camera crew, documenting Amy's supposed recovery. However, Amy saw right through it, believing her father was using her for financial gain. The strained relationship between father and daughter deepened. The divorce. Blake, fresh out of prison, saw photos of Amy with another man while she was in St. Lucia. This prompted him to file for divorce. Though Amy was heartbroken, she knew deep down that Blake's influence was toxic. Their marriage officially ended in 2009. The bodyguard, Andrew Morris. Andrew Morris, Amy's bodyguard, became her closest confidant. He wasn't just there for her physical safety, he provided emotional support in ways no one else had. Amy began to open up to him about her struggles with bulimia and her inability to have children due to the damage the eating disorder had caused. A father figure. For the first time, Amy had someone who genuinely cared for her well-being. Andrew often intervened when Amy wanted to indulge in her vices, helping her stay sober on several occasions. He was the supportive figure Amy had been lacking for so long. The struggle with sobriety. By 2011, Amy was making efforts to stay clean. She was off hard drugs and was even going weeks without drinking. But despite the improvements, the damage to her body was already done. Her doctors warned her of the severe health risks she faced. The final tour. Despite her fragile state, Amy was pushed to go on a European tour in the summer of 2011. Amy agreed, but was filled with dread. The stress and anxiety led her to relapse. Once again, alcohol and drugs became her coping mechanism. Belgrade. Amy's final performance in Belgrade, Serbia, was a disaster. She was visibly drunk and incoherent on stage, refusing to sing and behaving erratically. The audience, expecting a triumphant return, booed her off the stage. The cancellation. After the Belgrade debacle, the rest of Amy's tour was cancelled. It was clear to everyone that she wasn't ready for the stage. Amy retreated back into isolation, drinking heavily and avoiding the outside world. The loneliness. Despite being surrounded by people, Amy was deeply lonely. She confided in Andrew about her fears and regrets. The weight of her fame, failed relationships, and personal struggles bore down on her, and it was clear she was on a dangerous path. The doctor's warning. Amy's doctor issued a stark warning about her health. If she continued drinking, she would likely die. But Amy, consumed by her inner turmoil, couldn't break free from her addiction. She continued to drink, retreating further into herself. The calm before the storm. In the days leading up to her death, Amy seemed calm, almost at peace. She spent most of her time in her Camden flat, drinking quietly. To those close to her, this period seemed like a pause in the storm, but the end was near. The day of reckoning. On July 23, 2011, Amy was found dead by her bodyguard Andrew Morris. He had checked on her earlier that morning, thinking she was just sleeping. But when he returned later in the day, he realized she hadn't moved. The 999 call was made, but it was too late. Alcohol poisoning. The autopsy confirmed that Amy Winehouse had died from alcohol poisoning. Her blood alcohol level was more than 5 times the legal driving limit. Her body simply couldn't handle the toll her addiction had taken. The paparazzi's final shots. Even in death, the paparazzi couldn't leave Amy alone. Photographers swarmed her home, snapping pictures of her body being carried out. The media's relentless pursuit of her had been a constant source of pain in her life, and it continued even after her passing. The funeral. Amy's funeral was held on July 26, 2011, with family and friends in attendance. Blake was notably absent, though he claimed to have been devastated by her death. The service was a somber affair, as those who loved her said their final goodbyes. The aftermath. In the weeks following Amy's death, tributes poured in from around the world. Fans left flowers, candles, and notes outside her home in Camden. Many were in disbelief that such a talent had been lost at such a young age. The 27 Club. Amy joined the infamous 27 Club, a group of musicians who had all died at the age of 27, including Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Kurt Cobain. Like Amy, many of these artists had struggled with addiction and the pressures of fame. The blame game. In the wake of Amy's death, many began to question who was to blame. Was it her father, Mitch, who had used her fame for his own gain? Was it Blake, who had introduced her to hard drugs? Or was it the music industry itself, which had exploited her? The father's defense. Mitch Winehouse defended himself in the media, insisting that he had always acted in Amy's best interests. He claimed that he had tried to get Amy help, but ultimately, it was her own choices that led to her demise. His statements were met with mixed reactions. Blake's reaction. Blake Fieldercivil, still in prison, gave an emotional interview after Amy's death. He expressed deep regret for his role in her life and admitted that their relationship had been toxic. However, he stopped short of accepting full responsibility for her struggles with addiction. The legacy of Back to Black. Amy's Back to Black album became more iconic after her death. Fans and critics alike revisited the album, analyzing the haunting lyrics in light of her tragic fate. The album, which had always been a personal reflection of her pain, now felt like a prophecy. Amy's influence on modern music. Even after her passing, Amy's influence on modern music was undeniable. Artists such as Adele, Lana Del Rey, and Lady Gaga cited her as a major inspiration, and her sound continued to shape the landscape of contemporary soul and jazz-inspired pop music. A musical void. The loss of Amy Winehouse left a massive void in the music industry. There was a sense that the world had only seen a fraction of what she could have accomplished. Fans speculated about what her future albums would have been like, imagining the masterpieces that were never made. The public mourning. The public's mourning for Amy was intense. A mural was painted in Camden Town in her honor, and vigils were held around the world. Fans identified with her vulnerability, and many saw her as a symbol of the price of fame. The biopic. Rumors of a biopic about Amy's life swirled almost immediately after her death. Different directors and actresses were considered for the role, but no one seemed capable of capturing her complex personality. The film project lingered for years, caught between Amy's family and Hollywood's vision. The Amy Winehouse Foundation. In the aftermath of her death, Mitch Winehouse started the Amy Winehouse Foundation, dedicated to helping young people struggling with addiction. While the charity did good work, some critics felt that Mitch was profiting off his daughter's death, creating further tension between him and Amy's fans. The coroner's report. A second inquest into Amy's death revealed even more details about her final days. The coroner confirmed that Amy had relapsed into heavy drinking in the weeks leading up to her death. Her body, weakened from years of abuse, was unable to survive the binge. The fans' theories. Some fans believed there was more to Amy's death than met the eye. Conspiracy theories circulated, with some claiming that Amy had been driven to death by those closest to her, or that there had been negligence in her care. While none of these theories were ever substantiated, they highlighted the deep love and obsession many had for her. The burden of fame. The price of Amy's fame became clearer in hindsight. Her quick rise to stardom left her ill-prepared for the pressures of celebrity life. Constantly scrutinized and rarely allowed privacy, Amy became a tragic example of how the media can destroy those they once celebrated. The friends she left behind. Many of Amy's friends and collaborators spoke out after her death, sharing stories of her kindness, humor, and incredible talent. Mark Ronson, who had worked closely with her on Back to Black, was devastated. He often reflected on how different things might have been if Amy had been able to get help earlier. The influence of Camden. Amy's home in Camden Town became a pilgrimage site for fans. The neighborhood itself had played a huge role in her life and music, shaping her identity as an artist. After her death, Camden became synonymous with Amy Winehouse, forever linked to her legacy. The unreleased tracks. In the years following her death, several unreleased tracks were discovered. Fans eagerly awaited new music, but the question of whether to release these songs was fraught with debate. Some believed that Amy's unfinished work should remain private, while others argued that it was a way to honor her memory. Blake's continued struggles. Blake Fielder-Civil continued to struggle with his own addictions and legal issues in the years after Amy's death. He would periodically speak to the press, reflecting on his role in her life. Despite his remorse, many fans never forgave him for the part he played in her downfall. The ghost of Amy Winehouse. Amy's influence stretched beyond music. She became a symbol of self-destruction and vulnerability, a cautionary tale of the dangers of addiction and fame. Books, documentaries, and films about her life multiplied, with many trying to understand the true cost of her talent. The 10-year anniversary. In 2021, on the 10-year anniversary of her death, Amy's legacy was celebrated worldwide. Special tributes were held in Camden and across the globe, with artists performing her songs and fans reminiscing about the impact she had on their lives. The passage of time only deepened the public's love for her music. A lasting legacy. Amy Winehouse's legacy continues to grow, long after her untimely death. Her music remains timeless, and her story serves as a poignant reminder of the pressures of fame and the fragility of human life. Amy will always be remembered as a unique and talented artist whose voice resonated with millions, but who, in the end, could not escape the demons that plagued her life.